Good evening. Welcome to King County Levy Court. This is Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. We're at the room 203, King County Levy Court Chambers. And before we start with the business meeting, I'll turn it over to the county administrator and let him explain the rules for the WebEx and people calling in by phone.
Thank you, President Pepper. Good evening, everyone. This is a Levy Court business meeting that we're about to begin, and this meeting is being offered in person in 555 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware. However, we're also making it available to people who join us via the internet through WebEx, and the WebEx link is at the top of the agenda, and people can either join us by computer or by telephone. And throughout the course of the meeting, there will be opportunity for public comment, and we will be inviting our internet guests or telephone guests to provide comment if they wish to at the appropriate time. And the instructions for operation by phone, *3 on your mobile device will raise an electronic hand to our operator, and we can identify you and bring you into the meeting at that time. And *6 mutes and unmutes your phone. If you're on a computer using WebEx, at the bottom of the screen you'll see a raise hand symbol, and we ask that you use that at the appropriate time if you wish to make comment. All comments from our guests will be preceded by them stating their name and address for the record, and if it's during public hearing testimony, we'll also be swearing guests in, either in person or via the internet, and the county attorney will handle that. As a business meeting of Levy Court, we follow all the rules of procedure adopted by Levy Court for business meetings, as well as the Mason's Rules of Order. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. Posted on both doors as you came in, there are signs. You may not have seen them, but it says no hats, please silence your cell phones, and please no eating in the Levy Court chambers here. Thank you. At this time, we'll open the business meeting. We'll call to order. We'll ask for an invocation by Commissioner Howe, Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Buxton, and moment of silence for our troops and first responders. Commissioner Sweeney. All rise, please.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing all of us here tonight. We pray that all of our proceedings be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have lost their lives in line of duty, protecting and fighting for our freedoms. We also honor all the first responders and medical staff who have succumbed to COVID-19 virus complications contracted through close interaction with infected patients, losing their lives caring for others. As of today, more than 773,000 Americans nationwide, 2,162 in Delaware, and 465 right here in Kent County have lost their lives to COVID. Please remember these individuals who died in the line of duty and keep their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved ones. Chief Petty Officer Jason Finan from Anaheim, California. Sergeant Douglas Riney from Fairview, Illinois. Staff Sergeant Adam Thomas from Tacoma Park, Maryland. Corrections Officer Rhonda Jean Russell, Blair County Prison, Pennsylvania. Deputy Sheriff Frank Ramirez, Independent County Sheriff's Department, Arkansas. K-9 Rogue from the Cedar Park Police Department in Texas. Casey Callwood from the United States Fire Administration, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and Scott Williams from the U.S. Firefighters Association in Lamont, Illinois. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. At this time, can we have a roll call, please, determine quorum? Mr. Tanaka.
Mr. Angel?
Present.
Mr. Buxton?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Howell?
Here.
Mrs. Maston? Here. Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Pepper?
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 present.
Thank you. We do have quorum. Need a motion on the adoption of this evening's agenda.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston to adopt the agenda. We have a roll call, please, on that.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. This evening's agenda has been adopted. Need a motion on the consent agenda 21-12.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner, is it Howell or Hall? Commissioner Howell, to approve this evening's consent agenda. Can we have a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the consent agenda 21-12 has been approved. Next item on the agenda is a presentation for the Employee of the Month of December.
Kent County Department heads have selected Nancy L. Thompson from the Department of Planning Services as the December 2021 Employee of the Month. Nancy currently serves as an Office Support Specialist 2 in the Planning section and began her career in the Register of Wills office as a Wills Clerk 1 in July 2008. She was later promoted to a Wills Clerk 2 in 2012, and then in 2015 she transferred to the Planning Services Department as a Senior Secretary. Her primary duties include various clerical tasks, such as preparing minutes for the Regional Planning Commission and various other boards, preparing meeting packets, coordinating meetings on behalf of the Planning section, document management, answering telephone calls, etc. She interacts directly with the general public on a daily basis, and supervisors give her high praise for stepping up whenever needed, most recently helping the Housing and Community Development section organize and image numerous records. According to Planning Services Director Sarah Kiefer, Nancy has gone above and beyond to fill any position feasible to assist the department. This year, in particular, she really stepped up in the inspection and enforcement section to help complete permit technician responsibilities to deal both with the influx of permits and the impact of COVID-19 infections. Most importantly, she provides all of this help with a smile and determination to help however she can. Congratulations, Nancy, on a job well done. And she resides in Commissioner Sweeney and Pepper's districts, and the tribute reads, Kent County Levy Court, December 2021 Employee of the Month, Nancy L. Thompson, on this, the 23rd day of November 2021. The Levy Court of Kent County, State of Delaware, does hereby recognize Nancy L. Thompson, Office Support Specialist 2, Department of Planning Services, for her exceptional initiative, dedication, and conscientiousness in the delivery of services to the citizenry of the county.
Thank you. I'm looking out in the crowd. Nancy, are you here? You are. There you are. With all these masks, it's hard to pick people out anymore. If the commissioners will come on down front, we'll go down and congratulate Nancy. Nancy, do you want to come forward? Congratulations. Congratulations. What did I do to that? Nancy, congratulations. We really do appreciate all the fine work you do for the constituents here in Kent County, and you really interact well with your fellow coworkers, and you've always got a smile on your face. Of course, you can't tell that very much anymore. Just have to look for smiling eyes, I guess. But we appreciate it. We appreciate everything you do for us, and I know Ms. Kiefer does appreciate you as well. So keep up the great work, and you're the last Employee of the Month for the year. So, and of course, we'll have the drawing for the Employee of the Year, and hopefully you'll be a lucky one. Oh, there you go.
Yes, Nancy, maybe it will be a good Christmas for you because you will have it for next month. So, but thank you for all you do too, and keep that smile going. It's infectious, and we need that during these times. But thank you.
Congratulations, Nancy. Keep up the great job.
Yeah, I think you're the best. Congratulations, well deserved.
Well, happy birthday ahead of time. And appreciate your, huh?
New Year's Eve. Wow.
Wow, how about that? All right. Well, that's right. Well, we'll see what happens next month, but congratulations in the meantime. All right.
Nancy, you joined an elite group. Congratulations. Very much, very well deserved.
Congratulations. Good luck on the drawing.
Nancy, congratulations. It's great to be recognized by your peers and your director. And you've been here 13 years now, is that right? 2008 you began with the county. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the same year the Phillies won the World Series. And I know you're a huge Phillies fan, as I am, as Eric is. So hopefully this is the start of something good for the Phillies, as well as you. Yeah. And so congratulations.
We'll go to a game.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Sarah, would you like to say something?
Thank you. We're just so lucky to have Nancy. Not only is she more than willing to step up she's very cheerfully taken on roles in every section in our department. That has always been appreciated, but especially during COVID when we were struggling with staffing, Nancy stepped up and did it so happily, and I'm so grateful. So, well earned.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, Nancy, come on down and we'll get some pictures and then we'll let you say some words.
Don't.
Get it?
Yeah.
Good. Let me offer you some mic time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it. Introductions, yeah. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for indulging us. We like to recognize an employee each month for outstanding work. And at the end of the year, they select the Employee of the Year. So that's been a tradition of Levy Court for quite some time now. So thank you for indulging us tonight. Okay, we have some introductions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I recognize at least one of the three new employees in the audience, so there may be two. I know the third won't be able to be here. But to make this introduction, I'd like to introduce the Director of Public Works, Diana Galt. Diana?
Just checking, is there one other employee here? Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I'm here to introduce Colin Arnold. He was hired on November 1st as a GIS Technician 1 in the Engineering Division. Most recently, he worked in the freight receiving area of Home Depot, and prior to that, he was employed as a Greens crew member at Lakewood Country Club in Maryland. Colin is a 2020 graduate of West Virginia University with a BA in Environmental Science. Now, the packet that was sent out indicated that he was seeking permanent residence. I believe you moved to Camden, is that correct? Yes. And I believe that is Commissioner Sweeney's and Commissioner Pepper's districts. Colin, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much for taking the time to recognize me. I was very surprised to hear that I would be recognized in front of the Levy Court, and I truly am grateful for that. I appreciate it. Like I said, or like Diana said, I was born and raised in Maryland, and I went to school in West Virginia, where I studied geology and geography. And I'm new to the area, just moved into town. I was actually staying at a hotel for a couple of weeks, but now I've finally found a spot. And this is my first full-time job, and one more person, or actually two more people I'd like to thank are my parents. They believed in me every step of the way, and I really appreciate everything they do for me. And I just wanted to thank the Levy Court again for taking the time to recognize me.
Mr. Sweeney?
Thanks, Mr. President. We do this because we're welcoming you to the family. We have a very, very strong family here at Levy Court. We all work together. We all get along well. And you'll see that in the days coming. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Good luck. And
thank you so much.
Hope you have a long career here. Thank you. And am I correct, the other two are not here this evening? Okay, great. Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearings. First item on the agenda is petition for conditional use approval. Commissioner Buxton.
Ms. Kiefer will be here to explain the proceedings and get us started.
Thank you, Commissioners. Before we start the hearings, just a word about how the hearings tonight will be conducted. These public hearings are being conducted for the purpose of giving the citizens of the county the opportunity to present testimony on the applications before the Levy Court. Everyone will have a chance to speak. All statements are to be made from the podium at the front of the room or follow directions during the hearing to participate via WebEx. For the record, please give your name and address. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification and inclusion in the record. For each application before the Levy Court, the President will introduce the application. The Levy Court will then receive testimony from all of those in favor. Testimony will then be received from those who may be opposed. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the hearing on the application will be closed, and the Levy Court will take what action it deems appropriate. The Levy Court's decision will be based upon public hearing testimony given at this meeting and a recommendation submitted to the Levy Court by the Regional Planning Commission. I would ask that that recommendation be included by reference in the permanent record of this meeting established by the Clerk of the Peace. The public notice of this hearing was published in the November 5th, 2021 edition of the Delaware State News. The first application before the Levy Court tonight, C-2106, is for an accessory apartment. The site is Lot 53 of the Weatherstone Crossing subdivision. It is zoned AC, located inside the growth zone. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony at their November 4th hearing and at their November 10th business meeting, voted to recommend conditional approval of the application. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Kiefer? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, application C-21-06. At this time, we'll open the public hearing and ask anyone that is in the audience to please come forward and state why you are in favor. Seeing no one at this time, we'll ask.
Mr. President, if we could check to see if we have any guests on WebEx who wish to address Levy Court on this matter in favor, please press star 3 on your mobile phone or raise your electronic hand on your computer.
I see no hands raised on WebEx.
Okay. Anyone in the audience that is opposed to application C-21-06, please come forward.
Likewise, any guests on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court on this matter in opposition, star 3 on your phone or the raise hand icon on your computer will bring you into the room.
No hands in opposition on WebEx.
Okay, seeing no one opposed, Commissioner Buxton.
Before we close the public hearing, I need then to ask Ms. Kiefer to return to the podium. I don't know if it's relevant whether we close it or not, but I'd at least like to ask then some questions. For me personally, right? It seems rather simplistic. Nobody's here. We did have 2 letters of objection. I need to understand, because it is in a community, the community does have an existing or will have an existing HOA. It is governed by covenants, deed restrictions. So I don't care if the place is packed or nobody's here. For me, the law is the law, the rule is the rule. So I need to understand some things. For example, we permit this. In your opinion, does the HOA permit it? Looks gray.
I can't speak on behalf of the HOA. I'm not a member of it.
All
The
right.
deed restrictions do stipulate that only single-family development is permitted.
So if I was to articulate in a motion to approve that there shall be no First of all, from the pictures, I don't believe I have the actual plans, but from the picture, it's attached,
Yes,
right? It will be attached.
it will be.
won't
It's in
be
addition to the house.
an extension with a little walkway that goes to a new house. It's part of the house.
It's
Right, so
part of the
that's good,
house.
and that's what I see, instead of these nice fancy plans. So that's helpful, that's useful. From the pictures, I see no exterior entrance. Is that accurate?
There's certainly no front-facing entrance, no.
Is there a stairway to the back?
I'm not sure, no.
Because I could not find that in the information.
What the code prohibits is effectively a second front entrance.
I'll be honest with you, maybe it fell out of mine, but I didn't see that in my packet, which is okay, but it might have fallen out. I saw the others, I didn't see that one. So what's your take on it?
There's a door into the back of the garage, and that's the addition.
So it's interior,
Yes.
so very useful.
No exterior stairs.
So that's extremely helpful. So the only thing left for me, because I want the owner to be able to do what they want within reason, is to put a restriction that says there shall be no rental unit applied here. This is not a livable space for a rental situation outside of the family unit or other. I think we've done something like that in the past, or at least I can articulate that. So is this place, let me be more clear. Can I build one on my house and then put a for rent sign up?
Our code would not prohibit that.
All right. But I can articulate in the restrictions a prohibition of that, correct?
The levy court can choose to do that.
Sure. So I'm ready to close the hearing and then articulate my motion.
Okay, at this time, we'll close the hearing. Turn it over to Commissioner Buxton.
Based on my understanding of the restrictions placed in the deed, signed by all homeowners in the development, I will make a motion that we make a conditional approval of application C-21-06, conditional use approval of the accessory apartments located in the overlay district. It includes Exhibit A, Exhibit B. I shall also include in my motion of approval that that the use of the structure shall not be applied to renting the unit to outside the immediate family. All right? Do I need to clean that up? You're getting paid a lot of money down there, Craig. Help me out here. I just want to make sure that we don't have a for rent sign on it, because I don't think that's the intent of these things, and that's not what the deed restriction says.
Yeah, it would probably be helpful if you defined immediate family in some way.
Immediate family to, so I don't necessarily need bloodlines if it's a sister-in-law, but family. Yeah, I'm grasping here. I was actually anticipating somebody showing up so that I could. Yes, Mr. Pettit.
I could suggest and ask Craig if the stipulation would be that it shall not be offered for rent or lease.
Yeah, that's probably that'll do, because if there's not a financial element to it, chances are it's a close relationship, of whatever variety.
I want to encourage and incentivize. I think we all do. To include what he said. To include what the Mr. Pettit Demise, the county administrator, articulated so well.
Second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Buxton and a second by Commissioner Angel. And the commissioners have any questions before we take a roll call vote?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Buxton, RPC approval, and it's not in conflict with the comp plan. Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, per my motion.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, based on staff and RPC recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes, for reasons stated and per Mr. Buxton's motion.
Mr. Pepper,
Yes, per reasons stated in Commissioner Angel's information and Commissioner Buxton. Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals application C-21-06 has been approved. Continuing on, next item is a petition for conditional use approval. Falls under Commissioner Maston. It's application C-21-07. Commissioner Maston.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Thank you. Application C-2107 is a conditional use application for a dog training and dog daycare facility. The site is 3.5 acres on the east side of Hopewell Drive, south of Underwood's Corner Road, west of Kenton. It's zoned AR. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony at their November 4th hearing, and at their November 10th business meeting voted unanimously to recommend conditional approval. Primary among the conditions would be that there's no overnight stay of dogs on the property. So it's not a boarding kennel. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Ms. Kiefer? Seeing none, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing on application C-21-07, and I'll ask anyone that is in favor of this application to please come forward and offer testimony as to why. Once you get to the podium, please be sworn or affirmed, and then give us your name and your address, please.
Name and address.
Tom Moore, 558 Hopewell Drive, Clayton, Delaware.
Mr. Moore, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
Basically, I'm here to answer any questions you have. It's obviously my business, so I'm definitely in favor of it. We went through this, I don't know, some of you remember 2 years ago. Well, I'm getting bigger, thankfully. Things are doing well. We're going to move a little further out in the country, a little more room, a little more space to do things. Other than that, nothing's really going to change.
Any questions? Ms. Pettermosh.
Good evening, Mr. Moore. Good to see you again. Glad to hear that your business was successful. I know you were through a lot to get it, and I know there was concern about the impact of it, and I'm not aware of any negative impacts. I haven't heard of any complaints or anything like that. So congratulations, and it was a pleasure doing business with you before. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been there just about 2 years, have not had one complaint from anyone, no incidents. It's been going really well.
Commissioner Buxton.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but since you did, really? All that we went through, and now you're coming here to move on out, huh?
Well, Al sold the place, and the new guy said he doesn't want a renter, so
it's all good.
We're going to buy a new place, and we're going to have it for ourselves.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll ask anyone in the audience that is in favor of application C-21-07 to please come forward. Anyone else in favor?
If we have any guests on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court or on the telephone, *3 on your mobile device or the raise hand icon on your computer.
I see no hands on WebEx at this time.
All right, thank you. Anyone in the audience that may be opposed to this application, application C-2107, please come forward. Anyone that may be opposed?
Similarly, if we have any guests on WebEx or on joining us by phone, if you would like to address Levy Court in opposition to CSO 518, I'm sorry, CSO 507, C2107. Thank you. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong application number. Okay, C2107, training tails in opposition, *3 on your mobile phone or the raise hand icon on your computer.
See no hands raised in opposition on WebEx at this time.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Maston for motion.
Okay, I recommend the conditional approval of application C2107, a conditional use for a dog training and daycare located outside the growth zone overlay district based on RPC recommendation, staff recommendation, and no opposition.
Second motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Masson, second by Commissioner Angel. Any questions on the motion? Seeing no one, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, per staff and RPC recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, per my motion.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated, and the applicant does have a history now, and it's all favorable, so my vote is yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals application C-21-07 has been approved by Levy Court. Thank you, sir. All right, this time we'll move to petitions for conditional use requiring a site plan approval. First application falls under Commissioner Buxton. Commissioner Buxton.
Ms. Kiefer, take it away.
Thank you. Application CSO 518 is a conditional use with site plan for a very slight expansion of a commercial recreation facility and the inclusion of a campground. The parcel itself is 134 acres on the west side of Hunting Quarter Road, east of the town of Farmington, outside the growth zone. It is zoned AR, agricultural residential. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony on this application at their September 2nd hearing, and at the November 10th business meeting, voted to recommend conditional approval. Among the conditions, the first would be there's actually a permitted use violation on the site. The previous owner had actually leased out one of the ag buildings to a business person for storage. That violation needs to be resolved. What the Planning Commission recommended was giving the applicant 6 months following approval to resolve the violation. Another condition is that the perimeter fencing around the site be repaired and maintained, and that there be no permanent residency at any of the campsites. But this does come with a recommendation for conditional approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Kiefer? Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Kiefer, does a campground fall under the same zoning uses that we apply to subdivisions?
No.
No.
Those are entirely separate uses.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Mr. Kiefer, one question.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose the violation hasn't been corrected in 6 months. What happens then?
The owner could run the risk of losing the conditional use approval if a condition isn't met.
So what would that process entail?
Thankfully,
or how would that work?
We haven't had to do it often, thankfully. Typically, we would bring the violation to the attention of the Levy Court to consider revocation.
So that would fall under our purview?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. At this time, we will open the public hearing on application CS-05-18 and ask Anyone that may be in the audience that is in favor of this application, to please come forward and offer testimony.
Good evening, members of Levy Court. My name is Tom Schreier with Hillcrest Associates on behalf of Coviello Farms, LLC. I just wanted to step
Hold
up
on,
and-
sir. You need to be sworn or affirmed.
Give us your address, business address.
You can pull your mask down so we can hear you.
Perfect, perfect.
Thank you.
Business address would be 1760 Flint Hill Road, Landenberg, Pennsylvania.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
So thank you, Levy Court. Just wanted to stand up here and make a couple points about this project. As you know, Coviello Farms is the current owner of 89 Hunting Quarter Road, which some of you may know as the former Sam Yoder Commercial Recreational Facility. This application before you tonight is an amendment to a prior application that was approved in 2005. The purpose of tonight's application is to memorialize the existing campground on the subject parcel, which has been in existence since 2007, along with the expansion of the commercial recreational facilities. Based upon the staff recommendation report and the RPC decision that Sarah just mentioned, we more than comply with the regulations that are associated with campgrounds and commercial recreational facilities, obviously with the exception of the item that was mentioned in terms of CWP LLC, which is an acquired tenant that my client acquired as part of the purchase. Ultimately, we are in agreement with complying with all the conditions that were stipulated by the RPC. The only caveat to that would be that we feel 6 months is an unrealistic timeline for the current market standards for a use like CWP, and that we request you guys come with a little bit longer time so that that person has appropriate time to find and house his business. With that, I mean, that's all I have tonight. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people here in favor and against it.
Any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Buxton.
Ms. Keeper, let's, we're not here to decide or reflect on that condition, or are we? The condition of the business that's existing currently.
I would suggest a condition be added to it, giving a deadline to bring the property into compliance. If we had found this before we even got to public hearing, we would have pulled the application until we had compliance. So I would suggest setting some sort of timeline.
I'll deal with that when we get to the end. Okay? No problem.
Any other questions? Commissioner Sweeney.
Where is the campground on that image there?
So you see, yeah, basically all in there. So as part of the 2005 application, the commercial recreational facility and the campground had a 2-acre site associated with it. As part of this, we are expanding that to encompass all of the current existing RV sites to about 29 acres. So yeah, it's if you see the row of 4 buildings, the 4 white roofs, it's to the right of that, and then behind the big, large building, which is currently the recreational facility.
So there's quite a buffer between that property and any adjoining properties.
Correct. Yeah, the ordinance requires, I think, a setback of 50 feet. I think we're in excess of over 100.
Is there any sewage dumping or anything?
So we do have approved septic system as well as a dumping station and reapproved wells, which was part of the request from the RPC as part of our first hearing with them.
But not dumping at the campsite. There is a campground dump site, not hookups. As electric, water, no sewer hookups.
For the RVs, there is a dump station where they can empty
empty
their RVs. And then there are inside bathrooms which have an approved septic system associated with it.
And there was some mention about some amenities being added, whether it's disc golf or putt-putt or whatever. Is there a clubhouse or a store or something that's located on the property that they would be close to, or is that going to impede and get closer to the borders.
So as part of my client's intentions with the property, he is looking to add some amenities to the property, and I'm just going to find here the list. So improve the property with additional recreational facilities, walking trails, disc golf, playground, mini golf, and various other recreational items. The majority of them will be right around the commercial recreational building that was previously approved. Obviously, the walking trails and the disc golf will kind of traverse through the woodlands and circle back to the main building.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Petterbosch.
Thank you, President Pepper. Good evening. Could you go over the numbers one more time? I see trailer berthing spaces or camper berthing spaces, but then there's a whole area labeled tent sites. So how many camper berthing spaces do you have versus tent sites? And then I also saw some cabins on there, so that I didn't see anywhere on the plan a tabulation of the total number and the types of campsites that you have.
Mm-hmm. So there is 40 RV camper sites. There is 25 tent sites. There are 3 cabins located behind the commercial recreational facility, and then the 2 silos along the road are looking to be converted to cabins as well.
So to recap that, there's 40 RV sites,
yes,
25 tent sites, 3 existing cabin sites, and 2 proposed?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? To what extent do you plan on removing any of the forestation around there, any of the trees?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I had trouble hearing that.
Yeah, how many trees are you going to cut down?
We're not proposing to cut down any trees.
Okay, so it'll look very similar to what that looks right now.
Correct, yes. The current owner has done some cleanup from dead and dying trees and other things of that, but our intention is to not remove any of the woodlands associated with this project.
Okay. Any other question, Buxton?
A few other thoughts later. But tell me the extent of the fencing and its condition and the expectation of what it'll look like 3 months from now. So we have current fence. We have a requirement for a fence. There's some usage of the existing fence. Are they using all the existing fence? Are they putting in new fence? And when they use the existing fence, what's the timeline for putting it up?
So the intention is to keep all the existing fencing on the property. As recently as the 20th, my client and his workers have walked the entire perimeter of the site. They did locate 2 areas that had been damaged by fallen trees. Those areas have since been repaired. His intention is to keep all the existing fencing intact now and in the future.
Was the requirement by RPC a 5-foot fence, and did you meet that condition?
Is it a 5-foot? I think currently, I don't think there was a height requirement.
Was there a requirement for, I don't know, I had heard 5. I'm not asking for that necessarily. I'm asking you to define it.
Other questions? Ms. Kiefer, I don't see anything, unless I'm missing it, about sound. Are they limited as to hours of the day that they can have outdoor entertainment or anything like that? Or is that something that would come along when they came to apply for some kind of a permit for outside entertainment?
It would largely be covered by the noise ordinance. Levy Court could certainly look at the hours of operation associated with the commercial recreation facility and add limits on it if they choose.
All right. Commissioner Sweeney?
So the operation of the campground has been going on for a number of years.
Yes, sir.
And what is the policy of the campground right now for silent time? Does it have a policy?
I think my client could speak to that better than I could.
Is he going to come to the podium? State your name, your address, and be sworn in.
Hi, Chris Coviello, 89 Hunting Quarter Road, Houston, Delaware.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
So, Mr. Coviello, does the campground have any policy for, quiet time at night?
We have a policy in place that no outdoor activities after 10 p.m. at night. Within your home, or if you're having like a fire or something like that, you need to start putting it out by 10 o'clock. We don't enforce it at 10:01, but 10 o'clock is pretty much our curfew. So we want all public, any music or anything like that, it's got to be done by 10 o'clock.
So most campgrounds have a quiet time from 10 to 8 a.m., 10 at night till 8 a.m. 10 o'clock is stop partying, stop making a lot of noise. You still sit at your campsite around your fire, just keep it down.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah.
Do you have people that police that?
We do have an on-site manager that is there 24 hours a day. I brought him with us as well. He is there, not 24 hours, but probably 23 hours a day. We have a lot of animals on the property, so he's got to maintain a lot of that stuff, as well as me, my wife, and my kids. We kind of police everything. It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Also, if I could mention on the fence issue, we do have a fence around the entire 135 acres. And that fence is 4 foot high, and then it also has another 12 inches of barbed wire, 2 rows of barbed wire that runs around the top of that farm fence, which is a 4x4 block. Just to clarify, in case Tom was having a issue.
Commissioner Buxton, looks like you're getting ready to ask something else. Are you getting ready to ask another question? You look like you were.
So that delineates the entire perimeter of the property, not just the actual campsite and the areas of that, but the actual X amount of acres that you have.
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you have signage identifying that is the end of the property line for the for your property?
We do not have particular signs. If you pull up the other drawing, the outer perimeter. Okay, so that yellow line, for the most part, is where our fence is right now, with barbed wire, 2 rows of barbed wire on top that stands in excess of 5 feet from the grass. There is no signs that go between property, like property boundary lines. There's no signs, like no trespassing signs. There are a few old ones, but we will replace them. However, most of that has overgrowth and briars and sticker bushes on both sides of that fence. So to get to that fence, we had to chop, just to make the repairs this past weekend, we had to cut down, 10 feet of high growth briars to get to repair that piece of fence. It was about 50 feet long, and we did repair all that this weekend. But we did inspect the rest of it. So, but we'll be more than happy to put up additional signage or whatever between the property. I don't know if no trespassing signs would do it, but
I would request that you articulate it in your informational packet to your campers. Probably require that it's shown along the fence line in X amount of feet, possibly every 100 feet, so that it at least helps to support the fact that it is the end of the campsite. It is the end of the property, and that your campers are not supposed to move anywhere past that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Other questions? Seeing no one, thank you. At this time, we'll ask anyone else here that is in favor of application CS-05-18 to please come forward. Anyone else in favor?
Hello, my name is Zach Kleptowski. I am from 696 Statenville Road in Harrington, Delaware.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
Zach, could you spell your last name, please?
You ready? K-L-A-P-T-O-S-K-Y.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a great fit for this. There's not a whole lot going on in that area. I just moved to here in this area about a year ago, and I've met him just throughout the town, Chris, I mean. And I think it's, for the, this would be a great, fit for the Williamsville store and bring in, extra money into the small country store that's there, as well as, like the Farmington Mini Mart and all the other little gas stations that are around that area. I don't see that they see much of, like the beach traffic or anything out there. So I don't think it would be, a huge impact on the traffic with people coming in and out of there versus what's already there with chicken trucks and all that. There's really not a whole lot around that area, and I think this would be a good fit and would benefit many other businesses around this area rather than just himself. So please take into consideration just all the other people that this is going to benefit as well and bring in a lot of extra money to the desolate area of that triangle between the two big highways. So thank you very much, guys.
Questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in favor of CS-05-18? Please come forward. Anyone else in favor?
My name is Justin Connessy from 7005 Shawnee Road, Milford, Delaware.
What was your last name?
Konesey.
Mr. Connessy, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to state that Chris has done, I've known Chris for quite a few years doing other projects. I own brass sales in Felton, and working with him, he's always done good and finished projects, and I know that he'll do well with this. Also, in the RV industry currently, they're putting out 500,000 new units a year. They're not building as many RV spaces as they are units, so it's a great opportunity for Kent County to capitalize on drawing people to the area. And not everybody wants to go to the beach, so having a more rural setting, it'll be positive for people and be a good draw to the community. So that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in favor of this application, please come forward. Anyone else in favor?
Good evening. My name is Juliana Seeley. I'm residing at 4083 Wooden Hawk Road in Greenwood, Delaware.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I've actually had a really unique opportunity. I know this property very well. I'm a realtor, a business owner. I'm actually a member of our local Woodbridge School District Board of Education. So I'm very involved in our local community there in Greenwood, Harrington area. And I actually camped at this campground in October of 2020 when it was owned by the Yoders. And I was there with a group of friends. There was like 8 families. We were gathered there. We had a great time. However, we all said, I wish there was more here for our kids. We actually had to rent a bounce house just to have something for our kids to do because it was just a campground without a playground. So we thought, it's nice here, but there's so much potential to improve on this space. Well, guess what? A month later, the Yoders approached me as a realtor and asked me to be their listing agent to sell this property. So I'm actually the realtor who coordinated the sale on behalf of the Yoders. I did not represent the Cove Yellows, but I interacted with them extensively while they did their fact-finding, information gathering during the process of purchasing this property. this property was the love and passion and vision of Ronnie Yoder's father. And at this property, there's been concerts over the years. I've attended weddings there. I've attended church gatherings. So it's been a recreational facility for years. And when we were selling it, unfortunately, Sam Yoder passed away fairly recently. So his heirs, and in selling it, our understanding was that it was already conditionally approved as a campground. And that is how we represented it in the sale. So when it came to light that this actually wasn't conditionally approved as a campground, we were all pretty surprised, because that's how the property has been used for years, as a recreational facility, as a campground. So the fact that this is being questioned right now is rather shocking to me, honestly. And I was thrilled when the Coviellos came along and they shared their vision of really taking what's there and just improving on it. They're not trying to do anything really much different than what the goal of that property was, as far as a community gathering space, a campground, just something really good for our community. And as the gentleman just stated, I live 10 minutes from there. There's not a lot going on in Western Sussex. So when somebody wants to invest in our community and bring something positive, bring something for our families, I get excited about it. So I was super excited and super, thrilled to be part of the person who can bring someone in here to bring positive things to our community. And I really support the Coviellos and their vision, and the Yoders. We talked extensively, all of us, and they really support it as well. So I truly hope that you will allow this to proceed and, support what the Coviellos are hoping to do there, and bring some really positive things to our community by just improving on what's already there. So I hope that helps.
Any questions? Mr. Sweeney?
No, just a comment though. So I'm a new camper, new RV owner this past summer. We look for campsites that are quiet, without the playgrounds, without the pools, just a quiet place to go. But I understand if you have kids, that's what you're looking for. So thanks. We appreciate you coming down.
Sure. And it is very quiet back there. There's no homes or anything nearby. So, a little campground and a pool, it's a positive thing. And I would love it because it's so close to home for me.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room in favor of this application, please come forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Ronnie Yoder. I'm part of the Yoder family that made this transaction in April to Chris and Debbie Coviello. And
Excuse me, Mr. Yoder. I need to swear or affirm you. Okay. What's your address, sir?
My address is 12646 Shawnee Road, Greenwood.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
One of the things in talking to Chris and his manager soon after they purchased the property was to continue in the same type of thing that my father, Sam Yoder, had a vision for. And he had a lot of enjoyment out of this farm. He had concerts there. He enjoyed meeting the people that came to camp there. That was one of his enjoyments. And having sold this to Chris and Debbie, I see that they have a vision to continue in that same vein. And they're very excited. They've got lots of energy. They're young. And one of the other thing, too, that was impressed upon me as I watched families come in to camp and engage in other activities, a lot of the children are not familiar with farm animals. And this is an agricultural setting with farm animals. And they got a lot of excitement and a lot of fun out of seeing the animals there. and just that whole agriculture experience. And so from that standpoint, I think it was good for the community also. Basically, I second whatever Juliana said, and I think she said it quite well, and that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Yoder? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the room in favor of this application CS0518, please come forward.
Good evening. Roger Schwartzentruber. Can you spell that? Okay. That's unusual. 12897 Mennonite School Road in Greenwood.
Mr. Schwartzentruber, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
I would just like to give a voice of support for what Chris is doing. I'm a farmer, and I have been renting this land for quite a few years, way back when Mr. Sam Yoder owned it. And Chris is continuing to let me rent the farmland. As I've learned to know him and have seen what he's doing, I've appreciated what he has done with the property. And he's been very good to work with. He's added a lot of little things that have upgraded the campground, bringing in, like Ronnie mentioned, some farm animals and just making the place improved. And it's a nice, quiet area. I see no reason why this campground that has been there for so many years should be discontinued. And I think Chris will do a very good job of keeping it pretty much like it was. And I think it will be a good benefit to the community. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Schwartzentruber? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in favor? Anyone else in favor? Please come forward.
Dave Wilson, 17968 Halflinger Road in Lincoln, Delaware. And
Senator, excuse me. Do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
I've been in support of it, been involved with the Yoder family for a number of years, and I've had several auctions over the years there. I was familiar with the campsite. So I wasn't, when Mr. Cavallo contacted me, it was more on the rental of the buildings. And I can remember back when we liquidated the meat market, the sales that we've had there over the years, this setting was very, something that was well received in the area. So the campsite area, if it's not enlarging, I don't see the issue with that. The issue that I'm here to represent is that when planning and zoning or someone from this department, not Levy Court, but from your planning commission came out and they were renting the building for another use. And it was brought to my attention by Mr. Cavallo. I went out and looked at the property that day, and there was absolutely nothing going on outside the building. So I thought, well, this is an unusual. There's no traffic. There's no one coming in and out doing business here. What type of business is it? And they're selling agricultural products, from what I can tell, from a company that is manufactured up in Bear, Delaware, and it's simply a warehouse building. So I looked at the operation. I said, well, you know, it's all well kept inside. There's no debris sitting outside. I couldn't see any issue with it. And then when it was brought to my attention that the zoning, planning and zoning here had said they need to vacate within 60 days, I felt like that's kind of unreasonable, that if the commission would consider giving them a reasonable time. And it's agricultural products, it's nothing any different than what Mr. Yoder was doing there for the last 17 years. So I felt, as I looked at the operation, I said, being a small business owner myself and looking at small business in Delaware, Kent, and Sussex County, that is what we have to offer down here. So I felt that maybe that the commission, Levy Court, would be able to give some consideration for that type of operation. If it's not what we need, and Mr. Cavallo is not in compliance, then let's give him reasonable time to get in compliance and come back before the commission and let's do business, because I think every small business needs a boot to forward, not get slapped in the face. And I'm sure this commission is agreeable with small businesses here in Kent and Sussex County. We don't have any other industry down here to keep this business going. So I would ask that the commission give serious consideration for reasonable time for the tenant to relocate, and hopefully he doesn't have to relocate. It's a business there that seems to be doing well, and the gentleman that owns it is not there. He lives in Georgetown, so there's not traffic going in and out. I was spent about an hour and 15 minutes there. I didn't see a vehicle coming in and out to do business. My understanding was that Mr. Briggs, the owner of the business, is most of his business is shipped out, and he takes and delivers it with UPS or FedEx or some other type of delivery.
Any questions for Senator? Commissioner Angel.
That's good to see you, Senator.
Yes.
Anybody has a business has to have a business license, though, in order to operate, because the state wants their money too, because that's what they get their money from. So, but a violation is a violation, even if it is a business. So. Well,
I think he has a business license. To my understanding, he has a business license.
But he's still in violation, because what's being put there and how it's being handled is my understanding.
Okay.
So.
But my concern was that he's been there for 6 years. You know, it wasn't something that he opened up overnight. So the business has been in. If it's not in compliance, it hadn't been in compliance for the last 5 or 6 years.
And as you stated, also, Senator, Mr. Yoder has done it for 15 years prior to that. So things get passed over because they're not in the limelight, let's say.
Sure.
So things get taken for granted, if you will. So we want to make sure it's done right, though.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator, I believe the staff is proposing giving the company 6 months to relocate. What do you think would be a reasonable time?
That's the commission's decision. You know, something that's reasonable. I think that it was in violation within 60 days. I don't think that that's reasonable. Landlord-tenant law would give you more than that to pack your suitcase.
Yeah, well, I think we're going 6 months. So.
Okay.
Considerably more than 60 days. So. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Anyone else in favor of this application, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is John Briggs. Address is 21166 Greenway Place, Georgetown, Delaware, 19947.
Mr. Briggs, do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I am the so uncalled violator. So might as well put this out here and stand up and face music. So what my violation is I've been with Ronnie for 6 years running that storage unit, and now I've been approached by somebody that had come over to the property and wanted to see what was going on because of the zoning problem. What he found was a warehouse of my product where I store our cleaning products that we manufacture and sell to farm and garden, places like Tractor Supply, Mills Farm Fleet, and Rural King. Now, in the violation, as explained to me by Mrs. Kiefer, that when I was told that I had to leave, I was told that, well, we let Ronnie do some things and we look past them. And that's okay. But the problem is what you're asking, and I want to thank Mr. Wilson for doing this for me. He didn't have to do this. But what you're asking is for a small business through COVID who has had a hard enough time trying to stay open to pick up and find a place in this environment where there's nothing to lease. And if there is a lease, everybody's getting big rent, and I can't afford it. Now, my options are, before all this, was Mrs. Kiefer said, we don't want to put a small business out, so we'll work with you. Well, I don't see a whole lot of working going on. So my request is, number one, I don't bother anybody there. And the violation is is basically somebody, I can't even get an answer to what my violation is. I'm not an ag business, but we sell an ag product. So as I read under the restriction or the regulations to this, is that you can operate a wholesale trade establishment with facilities for storage and transportation of farm products. Well, I brought for you guys to look at our farm products. I don't know how much you guys want to go into it, but I'll give you guys all of our farm products. So somebody want to tell me how we define farm products? Or is that for another meeting? What I'm saying here tonight is what we have to be clear is that what you are asking a small business to do is go out, and what my options are now, because I can't find anything to rent. It's not out there that I can get to in a reasonable amount of time and be time management with my business. So what you're asking me to do now is my only option is to build. And number one, if anybody is in business right now, I can't even get anybody to call me back, but I have. And everybody is telling me, John, I know you're in a jam, but it's going to be, as soon as we get your deposit, we are a minimum of 13 to 6 months out. That's if we can get all the materials. So you're gonna penalize Chris for my problem that I didn't even know we had. And now you're telling Chris, if I'm not out in 6 months, which I can't build a building in 6 months, then you're going to come back and go, okay, well, Chris, you got to start your whole application all over again. And as Mr. Wilson said, I mean, if you guys are willing to, I don't understand where small business comes into Kent County. I'm from Sussex County, but I don't understand where we are to make a business leave your county because there's no clear explanation of the code.
Mr. Buxton.
John, I've spoken to you on several occasions. I explained to you that I understand your plight and I support it. I told you that we'd separate both applications. We need to do that first in order to deal with the campground, and then we'll get to yours. I explained to the engineer earlier that I need an explanation on if we could articulate the 6 months tonight. We can. I will get to your problem. I will not leave you hanging.
I appreciate that.
Do we have some more meat on the bone? Do we have some work to do? Yes. Why? We're a county of laws. It is what it is. Did we trip over ourselves early to try and avoid dealing with the odors? Yes, that did happen. It wasn't a willful intent by Ms. Keefe or anybody.
No, and I'm not blaming anybody.
It was an existence of an operation that people in general, you know, we don't look to go out and violate people. And I think that I support that action of this county. We do not ask our inspectors to ride around the county looking for violations. We're a responsive violator. We get calls, we go out. So you know, I get it, man. If we switch chairs, I'm laying into us. So I'm not upset with you at all. But what I will tell you is, I do feel your pain. I wish, like 1,000%, that you were not here. This was not the intent. But we're here. We're going to have to deal with it.
This is where we are. And I just really feel, and you and I have spoken, and I've said this to Mr. Wilson too, I am collateral damage to Chris, or from Chris. You know, I'm picking up pieces that got from the shrapnel of Chris going through what he's going through. So I just want a fair shake for my business also.
You are collateral damage. You're getting hung up. I've stated that many times. And I think you're going to find a levy court that's going to be, empathetic to the situation. We're going to try and figure it out. If any of the commissioners want to articulate an idea better than what I presented, man, have at it. As far as what's going on in that situation. Yeah.
Ranger.
Yes, and I understand your plight. We have a economic development person that helps bring business here, whether it's small, large, or whatever. I'm going to reach out to her to help you also, because she knows the whole county and what she's done for us. So I'm hearing that what you're saying. So we're not going to let you just fall by the wayside. I'm going to go on what Mr. Buckner just said. We will help where we can. So,
is there? And I'm not throwing Sarah under the bus in any kind of way here, but I still would like to know what. I can't get a firm explanation of our violation. I mean, what is our violation? What is it?
Your violation is based on the owner of the property. It's because you're renting property from him to put your goods in. That's my understanding.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So
but
that's,
of that zoning, what is allowed on the property, as I just read, are ag-related products. So where's the hang-up?
I don't know your products, sir. I'm just going on based on the violation of what I'm hearing and what's being said. So
I understand.
Any questions? Sarah, Mr. Kiefer, can you shed some light on Mr. Briggs' question? What's the difference between ag products, and does it make a difference in this case?
In this case, my understanding of the product line is that indeed some of the cleaning products are used by farm and garden operations, but it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive to the agricultural industry. So effectively what we have is warehousing in an ag building.
We can look at, like we have done with an application that's before us later tonight, look at a way to expand and enable ag business in these types of situations. That's what we need to do. But the code right now currently hangs you up a little bit, so we got to clean it up. We're going to give you the time. We're going to work with Ms. Kiefer, and we're going to figure it out, right? Because we don't want the collateral damage. You're right. But again, you articulated correct. You got hung up. You got caught up in this, hung up in this. It was never the intent to come after you at all. It's not the intent to come after the campsite. When the county receives calls, you have to act on them. You can't ignore law. If you got law, you got to enforce law. It is what it is. You know, I just articulated one before this tonight. It was an accessory structure. There was nobody here. I didn't have to put the restrictions on it to identify it. But what happens there? Then the owner feels emboldened to go out and rent the structure, which is not the intent of the law. So we're going to help you. We're going to do everything we can to help you. It's what I said. We got to separate the campsite, let you continue on, and then we got to get back to you and figure that out.
Okay.
Right?
I appreciate it.
Doing them both at the same time was going to hang us up even more.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to plead my side.
Hey, you did a good job of it.
Thank you.
Sir, got another question.
Just one more question, sir. Actually, that's for Mrs. Kiefer. While you're standing there, I want you to stay in the stand there, Ms. Kiefer. what Mr. Buxton was just stating, when we find a violation on somebody, we don't shut them down. They're continue to operate until we find, or they find another place, correct?
We don't shut anybody down.
Okay. I just want to get it on record so the gentleman knows we're not trying to force him to do anything. You're going to be able to still work, but you're going to have to find a place.
I am diligently looking very hard, but I think I'm also worried about Chris's business. You know, Chris has to grow his business too. And by me holding up Chris is hamstringing him too. So we got a yin and a yang thing here. You got me as a tripping up Chris. Chris is tripping up me. At some point, I understand what you're saying. I can exist there, but if I have to go past 6 months, you're gonna take this gentleman here and tell him that, Chris, everything that you've worked for over a year now is nil and void.
Well,
and we got to start. And I'm way over reach and on my part. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to come up with that's fair for both parties. That's all.
Well, and we're here to make sure that we're doing the right thing too. And
I understand.
And there's two separate issues here.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm looking at it from a totally different point of view, and all I can say is I will try and get you the help from the people that we know that keep businesses moving, bring people here. So afterwards, if I can get your name, number, and address and everything, I will turn that over to the person that I want to help to get you help. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience in favor of this application, please come forward. Anyone else in favor, please come forward.
If we have any guests on the WebEx, if you wish to address Levy Court in favor of this application, you can activate the raise hand symbol on your computer, or if you're on a mobile phone, *3 will raise your electronic hand.
See no hands in favor on WebEx at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll ask anyone in the audience that is opposed to application CS 0518 to please come forward. Anyone opposed, please come forward.
Good evening. Richard Wilkins, 9311 Memory Road, Greenwood, Delaware.
Mr. Wilkins, do you swear or affirm, sir, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'm here tonight with some concerns as a adjoining property owner. I've been a farmer in this community for 45 years. My father and grandfather farmed in this area for 25 years prior to that. And as an adjoining property owner, I certainly have an interest in what type of conditional uses are granted on property adjacent to mine, which could impact my ability to have the liberty of enjoying my property. My concerns that I'm going to speak to is not personal concerns with any previous owners of this property, current owner of this property, but it's worries about when the Levy Court grants a conditional use permit. That conditional use is granted not only to the existing owner of the property, but also to any potential future owner of the property down the road. I do not know the Coviello family well enough yet to really have an understanding of if they're very sincere with what they say their intentions are. But what about a future owner down the road? What might their intentions be with utilizing this property with the conditional use that's been granted? So my request is only to make sure that if it's the Levy Court's desire to approve, that it get approved with proper stipulations to prevent unforeseen circumstances unintended consequences into the future. So, around the perimeter of this property, there is existing fencing. It's livestock fencing. It's fencing that was constructed with the purpose of restraining livestock from escaping from this property. Human beings are much smarter than livestock. So I think that the signage is a necessary stipulation. I would further like to see some stipulation that rules be put in place to properly inform guests to this camping property that they are not permitted to stray from the camping area onto adjacent properties. I haven't seen a strict delineation of this 135 acre tract of land as far as, is there going to be a strict delineation of specifically where the conditional use is permitted, specifically where the conditional use is granted? There's mention of some walking trails. What's the plans for stipulating that the guests must be confined to those walking trails and that they don't stray over the property boundaries to what may be perceived as an attractive nuisance on an agricultural property next door? Terms of residency and length of residency for campsites. County ordinances are lacking severely in this regard. Many of us in the community, we desire to have stipulations placed to prevent current owner or future owners from bypassing the county comprehensive land use plan. This is an area that has been designated an area for low density in an agricultural area. We want to assure that portions or all of this campground do not become campsites for permanent residency or long-term residency, which unfortunately is something that we're seeing taking place across the country in many camping grounds, where people that are unable to find affordable housing are living in campgrounds because of a lower cost of living. And finally, I'd love to figure out a way that you could place another stipulation on this conditional use, such that no current or future owner may bring a nuisance complaint against any adjoining property owner for the conduct of any agricultural activity. I can tell you that as a lifelong resident of Delaware, this is one of my biggest fears for the future of our industry, is new inhabitants coming to Delaware and being unhappy with the smell, the noise, and the agricultural air, and that putting a burden upon us to enjoy the liberty of being able to continue farming in this state. Those are the ends of my comments. I'll be happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
Any questions, Commissioner Buxton?
Mr. Lassen, I do not want to give lip service. I do want to offer an motion, if there was an approval, what Mr. Wilkins said, that the current applicant is prohibited, or future owners are prohibited from issuing a complaint regarding the agricultural usages in the surrounding area, if I articulated that correctly. Is that a legal condition, something that I could articulate?
I think it's a pretty slippery slope. I've had an ongoing dialogue with the Secretary of Agriculture over just this topic. There's a right to farm bill that was introduced in the legislature that addressed this and some other items. It's stalled for a variety of reasons. My concern is, I get it, that farming interests don't want nuisance complaints that are not well grounded. But to single out this particular owner simply because he and his LLC are seeking conditional use approval, I think doesn't send a very good message. It wouldn't apply to any other neighbors, just this one. Why? Because he came forward with a conditional use application. So I'm not really overjoyed with that, quite honestly. But I think if you did that, I wouldn't have any problem, articulating a justification for it. But I just don't have a really good feeling about it, to be perfectly candid with you, Commissioner.
Follow up with that. My point in asking the question was because I'm going to include it. I'm going to tell you that it may not be defensible, and that can be proven down the road. I don't think Chris is going to have an issue at all, but you're right. Whoever owns it has that opportunity. I just wanted to demonstrate that while I'll include it, it may not hold water, but I'll give it a shot. And the reason why it's specific to this one is because no one else is proposing a new campground in this area. So it is unique comparative to the other residents. But I appreciate Mr. Lies, and I appreciate your understanding of it.
Certainly.
Mr. Angel.
This is Mr. Wilkins. The farmers in the area there, are most of them planting, or they're cattle or chicken farms in the area? Is there anything like that in that area?
All of the above. It's a richly diverse agricultural area. There are several commercial poultry operations, broiler operations. There is row crop agriculture. There is cattle. I have beef cattle on my farm, and then there's also vegetable production, hay production. So basically it's a microcosm of Delaware agriculture, with a very large basket of produce and basket of goods, agricultural goods that are produced in that area.
Thank you. That's not my area. That's why I was asking. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
And I can certainly appreciate the council's comments on the defensibility. I can assure you that I have been personally involved with the efforts to try to strengthen Delaware's right to farm law, and the number one obstacle seems to be the Trial Lawyers Association.
The Municipal or County Lawyers Association.
Anyone else opposed to application CS-05-18? Anyone else opposed, please come forward.
Good evening. Name's Greer Staten. My mailing address is 16041 Statenville Road, Lincoln, Delaware, and I own the farm at 413 Hunting Quarter Road, which is directly adjacent.
Good evening, Mr. Staten. Do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll try and be brief. Some of these issues have been covered, but I'm here tonight to object to the proposed conditional use on the following basis. So first one is under your county supplemental regulations 205-397.8 paragraph 2 campgrounds. The applicant's request must include a letter of no objection from adjacent property owners. 5 adjacent property owners object to this change in use, and these objections are on record at the RPC meeting or public hearing of September 2nd. I don't know if that precludes anything, but I'm hoping that we are relevant. We are the adjacent property owners. There's 5 of us. The second item, concerns I have with compatibility and effect this private campground will have on the surrounding community and properties Richard's addressed that quite well, Mr. Wilkins. Right now, as he stated, current activities are farming, timber, grazing, and hunting. And I do lease out a lot of hunting ground, about 100 acres of woods that are next to and in close proximity to this. So the expansion, at any rate, is going to, if this campground is approved, is going to definitely change the character of this community. And it's something that Kent County and the state, I feel, at large, needs to protect. So although it's a conditional use, this in effect creates a commercial enterprise outside the designated growth area. And this was mentioned earlier too. It sets a precedent. This owner may have good intentions. We certainly hope he does if it is approved, but what happens with the next owner? I mean, will they come in and expand it? I mean, if KOA or a major national campground comes in and buys 134 acres, they're not going to be happy with this size. Then we have major problems in the neighborhood. So another item here, I referenced the code for county parks. I know this isn't a county park, but section 168 of Parks and Recreation, so there's no less than 54 rules covering everything from alcohol to using fireworks to being properly clothed, and you continue on. We're not asking that you consider all those rules for this, but it's something that, you know, apparently the county has some concerns, and not so with private campgrounds. In the campground rule of the county, there's a total of 6 rules. A few of them, one is a 50-foot setback, shielded exterior lighting, and enough off-street parking. That's, and a couple other minor items. I'm sure briefed as far as what the RPC November 10th meeting, they voted to approve the application, and the items they addressed were the perimeter fencing. They did specify no trespassing signs be posted, and we would just ask that be clarified that they're posted for the guests on the campground, not for our benefit as a neighbor. They specified limited number of campsites as proposed and no permanent residency of any sort permitted, but that was not defined. So under the county supplemental regulations 205-397.8, campgrounds, the reviewing body may impose any other appropriate or more stringent conditions it deems necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. In no way am I endorsing this application, but I ask you to at least clarify 2 of the RPC conditions. The one being permanent residency. If you look at a KOA policy, it's 28 days that they can stay on the campsite. Second item there I would like you to consider is, and this is a major concern with I think all the adjacent property owners, they would like to see a buffer of evergreen trees planted. Just, you know, if anything, it'll probably enhance the camping experience for those people there. But it also shields us. And then this may be a big ask here, but at least maybe address what the county Parks and Recreation has for rules. The public health and safety aspects of that could be applied to campgrounds, this campground in particular. I mean, we don't want fireworks going off. We don't want explosions, you know, that sort of thing. That's just not good for the community or anybody. So in closing, I think in fairness, I try to think of benefits from granting this conditional use. You know, I've heard this is just legalizing an existing campground. Well, I was taught 2 wrongs don't make a right. I'm sorry. And unfortunately, the oversight of the illegal part of this could now become a permanent fixture on the maps. Another benefit argument is the increased value of the property if it receives a new use. The property was purchased as is, and the buyer was aware the campground did not have campsite approval, was what I was told by the owner. So basically it becomes an ethical question, who gains and who loses here, the new owner or the long-term residents of this community. So I just ask that you consider the full ramifications of the application and that your decision is favorable to the adjacent property owners. That concludes my.
Mr. Pepper.
Mr. Buxton.
Well, the buffering, the tree landscaping, obviously, as I was understanding, the trees that it currently exist shall remain. Are you talking about possibly buffering the front side of it? Is that what you're looking at?
The perimeter side, so existing adjacent owners have trees. It used to be all trees years ago. I was raised on the farm, so
yeah,
I remember when it was just all beautiful pine forest there.
Sure.
Big pines.
The only concern I offer, right, is that I want to buffer the actual existing campground itself, and I think that would deem reasonable. My concern is the farming opportunity and how that would infringe or impact the farming that currently goes on there.
Oh, as far as having a tree buffer?
I don't know. You tell me. Is that the kind of tree you're thinking of? Would it expand and infringe? And so I don't want to do that.
If it was set back, it would not infringe. No. And then you do have. It was asked about poultry, and right in front of that, there's 2 poultry houses. I think again, it would benefit everybody to have a tree line buffer there because there's dust, there's odor. It would help. It's not going to take it away, but. And yeah, there's quite a few poultry houses around there. But I would be on the farm, I guess, kind of facing north of that, and then across the road, hunting quarter, is my property.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Anyone else opposed? Anyone else opposed to this application? Please come forward.
I guess seeing as how I live right across the street from it, it would be amiss for me not to say something. Carl Anderson, 750 Deep Grass Lane.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Probably the first way to start with this is I'm glad we could provide a quiet environment for this. I understand Chris has bought this property, and I'm not going to stand here and say that he shouldn't do what he's doing. Sam Yoder had a campsite there, very rarely used, to the degree that I think Chris wishes to use it. He's entitled to what he has to do. My concern is that I have a view of the campers. I'm looking at the end of campers. My biggest thing is I would like to see a buffer, a long deep grass lane, to shield me from it. Along with the lighting, which is normally not a big issue. Sam would have functions. The lights would shine towards us, but nothing to really be concerned. And Chris hasn't had anything late that would bother us either. We have had lights shining, but it's not all the time. I would at least like some consideration to a buffering. Most campsites I've seen in the area, like K&R, they're in the woods. We don't see them. The people who live near there don't see the campers. And that's probably my biggest grief over this, except that some of the campers are bigger than some of the poultry feed trucks, but that's neither here nor there. It does increase traffic for the area. As you well know, the area is growing. There's developments towards Williamsville, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. Some of the roads around there don't support large vehicles, and it's bad enough passing poultry trucks hauling chickens back to the plant that make it difficult. But like I said, Sam had it. Whether Sam was right or not, Sam worked under, it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask permission. Of course, we're in a different environment here. But like I said, I'm not out to bash Chris with what he wants to do. I just don't think that our farming community, which is ag land preservation, wishes to see it. This, again, does not match, but that's all I have to say on it.
Any questions? Any questions? Mr. Anderson? Mr. Buxton?
Mr. Anderson, looking at that picture or that one, I see the interior of the structures. You're talking about adding trees out there towards the frontage, all along the yellow line or lines?
Well,
or are you just talking about specific to a couple areas?
Yeah, my property runs from, I don't have a pointer, so I can't point it out.
Box out is the little...
On the right-hand side, you'll see there's a lane that goes to the right. Yes. My property runs from, if you bring the cursor down to the woods line, I run from there up out of the picture. There you are. Now, my residence is right there. And if I sit in my living room, I look straight across to the campground. And as of now, there's always pretty much campers in there, which is good for Chris and good for business. But that's what I do see. When Sam had it, this has been, what, 11 years? Since then, since I purchased the property, very rarely would you have campers out there. You would see them once every couple months when he had a concert. Sometimes some people would come out there, but you wouldn't see them on a regular basis. I am seeing them now on a regular basis.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else in opposition to application CS 0518? Please come forward.
Daniel Russell. I live at 1098 Mesabob Road. My land joins this property we're discussing.
Mr. Rustam, do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
The only issue, I agree with all my neighbors. I'm not going to repeat it. The only thing they left out that's going to really affect me too is two things. My road already is being used for more transportation to get over to their vicinity because Hunting Quarter, if anybody has rode on it, I think they laid it out with horses and logs, and I'm not exaggerating. So they used my road. Chris was trying to say, oh, they'll never come around your way. That's wrong. The other question I got, and he'll have to answer it. He owns 2 acres across that county ditch that's on me. I want to know how he's going to address that and stay out of my life. Everything else, I let go. Because I just be repeating what the rest of my neighbors said, and I agree with it. I don't want the campgrounds, no. And he does have permanent residence there now, because one of them has bought off me, who's been there since July. He works at a chicken plant at Purdue. He's there 7/24. I didn't think that cease and desist order was ever upheld. But a whole lot of things with the county has never been upheld with me, because I was told when they made the mega farms around there by me, other chicken houses, that none of the large trucks would pass in front of my property because the road's narrow and my house sits on the road. I have nothing I can do about it. The county said I was a safety issue. I said, well, buy me out. But they lied every time. The trucks still come by there, and some of these days they will go through my house. And you know the answer to that. Other than that, if you got any questions, that's all I got to say. But am I happy with the county? No.
Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else opposed? Anyone else opposed to application CS 0518? Anyone else opposed? Please come forward.
We have anyone on WebEx or on the phone who wish to address Levy Court in opposition to this application? *3 on your mobile device or the raise hand icon. We'll bring you in.
See no hands raised on WebEx in opposition.
Okay, any commissioners have any further questions before I close the public hearing? Commissioner Buxton.
Mr. Coviello, I'd like to have him come back to the stand if possible. Stands out for me right now might be the landscaping. Do you see anything in that conversation that you can help us out with? I know I can mandate it, but I'm asking what your thoughts are.
As far as if you could be a little bit more specific.
It looks like he's out front, maybe shielding yourself somewhat, maybe entirely, from some of the individuals that are here, so putting up some type of a tree line, I don't know, the old-fashioned cypress leland or something along those lines. I get it, it's a massive space. I know you have a farmer. The farmer might demonstrate that it jams him up completely. If he wants to come down and articulate that, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have issues, I think, with DOT, because we would have to, if we put trees in that corner, it becomes a blind spot. So if you want some type of buffer over there, when that corn grows in, it grows 7-8 feet tall. Well, and Roger can validate that. So there is no visibility for anything going on unless somebody's looking specifically down my driveway.
Well, I don't know about that. You've had somebody testify that that's not true. So we'll just leave that alone. I guess I'll ask the farmer now, because that's my biggest concern. Yeah. You've currently, I guess we'll call it till it. What's your thoughts?
Trees do grow into fields. I mean, that's a established fact. So there, between the fence and the road, there's hardly any space. If you plant trees on the inside of the fence, of course, it would take away some of my tillable land. It's the same way over on there's a ditch on the yellow line at the top, and it's the same situation. There's hardly any space between the fence and the ditch, so all the trees would have to be in the field, so to speak. The only thing, if I would make a suggestion, would be to come across the front of the back of the field there. Could be maybe a solution that would help out.
Ms. Coviello, your thoughts on that one? I like that idea. So you're talking about landscaping, essentially some of that, see where I'd call it the turf field, yes. That would have much more friendlier way, put up some sort of landscaping there. That just kind of keeps your park interior from the folks who have shown up tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a big issue with putting a couple of trees there, as long as it doesn't affect with any of the natural landscaping as well, you know? We have on the left side there, that white fenced area, we can't be nowhere around that. That's the septic fields. So we can't put any plantation. It's either going to have to go way behind or way in front, which you have, I mean, you have tons of trees already all the way around the perimeter. That small area, if you're only talking this small area, sure, we'll put in 10 trees or whatever, that's fine.
What I'd suggest, right, is to work with the planning department and include in that some type of buffering or screening. I'll call it to that portion of your campsite. And they can determine, based on what was articulated tonight, what's a fair or adequate amount of screening or buffering. I'm not looking for the entire perimeter.
It's already there anyway. There's natural.
Right. So, all right, good? Okay. Thanks, partner.
Right.
Appreciate you.
Commissioner, one more, got another question here for you, sir.
Yep.
Yes. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thanks, sir. So, Mr. Coviello, there's been some of the opposition testimony that stated that there were residents there living in the campers year-round.
Okay.
Are there?
No, absolutely not. We are not a mobile home park. This is specifically a transient facility. And my wife is here. She knows all the regulations. I don't know what they are, but we have no permanent residents that are there, which I don't know where that accusation came from, but I'd like to see proof of it, at least proof, because I'm getting tired of hearing all these accusations from different people. So it gets me pretty frustrated, but my wife can tell you what the regulations are for each and every camper that come into this facility.
Okay, your website lists daily, weekly, and monthly rates. Do you have a maximum stay? Mrs. Coviello, just come down and be sworn in.
Debbie Newland, 89 Huntington Quarter Road, Houston, Delaware.
You swear or affirm, tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So currently, we don't have anything based on, we go up to monthly. The few tenants that are still remaining that they may be speaking of, some are helping us out with day-to-day work. Some are looking for residents here in the state. They live in another state. They have houses in other states, but they have jobs and they're in the process of moving. One of the campers is a military family that's waiting for house on the base housing, and then they're going to store their trailer there, use it to do their off stuff. So each one of them is short-term with the destination in mind. We actually have a camper leaving at the end of the month because the season is over. We have another camper that is leaving at the end of the month. The season's over. He would like to come back next year. He's been camping there for years. So we don't have long-term people. We have seasonal people that we've allowed to stay a little extra or that came in a little late that need to stay a little extra. But no, it's based on monthly. And if they need to stay for 3 months, then I don't see a problem as long as they're not causing a problem.
So you do have a season where, when
Our season typically was going to end October 31st. We extended it because we were still getting phone calls for people coming in on the weekends. So we said, okay, November 30th. And we do have the cabins and the indoor showers and bathrooms. So like the cabins, we're not necessarily calling them seasonal because they can be used year round.
Okay, thank you.
Question. Question, Ms. Kiefer. This application covers the entire property, correct? Okay. So at the present time, it sounds like you're going to do primarily all your camping behind that woods line. Is that true? Or do you plan to expand out to the front road?
No. In the drawing, the previous drawing has a sketch of the outline. I believe it's 26 acres. 29. Okay, there it is there. See the dotted line? That is the entire campground area. That's the conditional use expansion. The right about where it says site area, that's about where the campers, the tent campers are. And then the existing is where right above where it says sheet 6 there. And then you see it, yep, right there. That's 20 RV hookups, full hookups. And then just a little bit above that little rectangle right there, whoop, there's another 20 in there, which is your 40. That makes up your 40 RV connections right there. And that's it total, 40 plus 25. That's
so
it.
You're not planning on, up there on the drawing, sheet 4 and sheet 7, you're not planning on
Absolutely not.
Camping?
My wife would kill me. No. We are what we are. We're just formalizing what is already there. That's it. No expansion, no nothing.
Ms. Kiefer, if sometime down the road that this property was sold, could sheet 4 and sheet 7 on the drawing, could that be expanded for camping as well? And if so, what would they have to do to make that happen, if anything?
Any expansion would have to go through this process again with the Planning Commission and the Levy Court. It couldn't be done administratively.
It could not be done in administrative?
It could not. It would
Okay,
have
gotcha.
to go to public hearing again.
Okay, so anything past that dotted line there would have to come back before Levy Court?
Correct.
Gotcha, thank you. Commissioner Angel?
Mr. President, the RVs that are coming through, is there a size limit because of the road and where they're going to be parking?
Basically, if it can be carried across the road, it can fit within our park. I believe we've had a 42-foot rig come in, no problem, no issues. As a matter of fact, they stayed for 2 days. They left to another campground down the road. They turned back and they begged us to take them back because they couldn't get into the other spot and they didn't like the place. It was too loud and everything. So anyway, they came back and stayed for 7 days. So as far addressing that, I believe probably 50-foot would probably be max that could fit in there without any major issues.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, this time I'll close the public hearing and I'll turn the application over to Commissioner Buxton, whose district that is, for motion.
Mr. President, I'll take just a brief few minutes to explain things. It's been a complicated journey for everybody involved. As you've heard from the testimony, there are different opinions, depending on which side you're on. I'm not on the side. I'm in the middle, ready to make a decision, and for that reason, I'll make it. I venture to say at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be, matter of fact, I'll end up not making anybody happy. It is what it is. So I'm going to move on this tonight. I'm going to throw down a couple notes. I'll probably jump all over the place, but at the end of the day, I'll include my terms, my conditions. I think that Mr. Coviello and the real estate agent are correct in the sense that they're probably got it hung up based on the previous use, and that's how we're here today. The county is in a position to put in terms of conditions for approval. So given the history of how we got here, my belief that folks have property rights, I do believe that this thing should be in existence. So my condition for approval will be a motion to approve. It'll include Exhibit A, B, and C within your packet, and then it's also going to include some of the things that I'll articulate. Now, some of them may be a repeat. I'm not sure, but I'm going to make sure that I get them in there. We talked about year-round seasonal, whether it's seasonal or year-round, and there are campsites that are seasonal. There's some that's year-round. We have one down the street that's year-round. I don't think it's fair to necessarily apply a seasonal restriction on this. In other words, shut it down at the end of this date. So I'm not in favor of doing that. Okay? They have an existing footprint that was technically the county was okay with in the past. We're not asking them to reduce. They're not asking to expand. If that were to come down the road, they would have to present that to Levy Court regardless of the owner. So that needs to be clear. That needs to be no expansion. And I won't be receptive to anything that deviates from that, avoids that. So we mentioned that. Yes, so the extension. I wanted to clear up a few things. I am in favor of the extension of a full year for the current property that got hung up as collateral damage. And within a year's time, they can demonstrate their corrections. The Levy Court can present options for corrections, or the application, the situation can return to Levy Court for a decision to be made on what's next, kind of like what we did with Coker. So I'm removing the 6 months and applying a year. Okay, so I wanted to get that one. I don't want to include the mention of the prohibition of an agricultural complaint coming from the owners of the property the campground, to an outside agricultural use in the immediate area. An immediate area can be defined as a mile radius. So we've covered that one, okay? Let's talk on a few other low-hanging fruits. Stay with me, because this one's kind of, like I said before, at the end of the day, I'm gonna get hung up regardless. Let's talk to some low-hanging fruit. Fence, 5 foot with barbed wire. That can be included. The applicant articulated it's 4 feet with a 5 foot barbed wire. Let's make it that, okay? So that's what we're doing there. Signage. The signage shall be placed 100 feet apart throughout the perimeter, articulating to the campers. This is the end of the property line. This is the end of where you then leave the campsite, which is not permitted, and venture over into somebody else's. In doing so, could result in an immediate eviction. So we talk about signage. I got the business out of the way. We had positive testimony. I get it. I included ABC. I talked about the application being prohibited. Let's move to the last three, maybe 2, 3 that are most important. I think number 1 on the list. Well, let me talk about the buffering. The buffering that we talked about earlier in the testimony should be clearly articulated to the applicant and then applied to the approval. Okay? All right. I have a deep concern. The applicant came to me specifically. Why in the heck can't we do a campground? It's already been a campground. Why can't we do one? He wasn't wrong, although I explained to him how we got here. If you want to operate as a campground, I'm going to make a motion, as I stated, to approve it. However, we're going to make sure that you're a campground. There shall be no permanent full-time residence. Just can't be. How am I going to articulate that? All campers utilizing the facility shall be tagged. All right? Current tags and transferable or transportable, meaning able to be moved, not fixed. All right? That's what a campsite is. That's what a campground is. That's what I want. When it comes to the cabins, cabins shall not be used for permanent residency to extend greater than 30 days. As you said, 1 month. You can use campsites. You can have campers. We're not saying to restrict that. Okay, what we're saying is in the cabins, we can't turn those into permanent residency. They are an Airbnb, as you explained, right? And an Airbnb to me is somebody who visits the campsite, which is what you want. So we'll make sure that we articulate that well. Coming slowly to an end, I think that was the bigger one. Hours, I believe, were articulated within the RPC, but if not, we talked about 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. quiet time. If there is some sort of need for some sort of function that we're not aware of outside of those hours, it shall require a permit from the county. You'd have to apply for that. All right? So we're good there. So I'm almost done here. I articulated my concerns with the cabin, the camper, the 1-year extension, buffering, hours, the right to exist as an agricultural business outside of this, included the ABC exhibits, fence and signage. I'll end with this one, right? I don't know how to say it other than my intent tonight is to marry the two. The application, they wanted to exist at a campground, they're going to. To the community, I get it. It's not perfect. I just think that the applicant does have rights, and I have to honor those. Just do. So I'll do what I can to marry the two. Hopefully that has addressed those concerns. If anyone else has anything that fits in a motion to approve, I'd ask them to add that during the, after I have a second, if I have a second. So that's my motion. All right? Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Have a motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Sweeney. Would anybody like for Commissioner Buxton to repeat all that? Any questions on the motion? Any questions on the motion before we go to roll call? Commissioner Maston.
Commissioner Buxton, just one concern. I'm not an avid camper, but I've been camping, whether it be down to Millsboro, which is Paradise, near Paradise Grill, which is, there are strict rules and regulations there. And I've also been to campgrounds over in Maryland, not far from the Delaware line, where there are no rules and no regulations. You can say, you know, they open at 7 a.m., they close at 11 p.m. However, being there, none of that really occurs. And I've seen events or actions happen at 3, 4 a.m. when you're trying to sleep, where people are literally drinking and having a really, really good time to the detriment of everybody else in the area. So I'm a little concerned, and I think Mr. Wilkins stated his concerns about making sure that we have rules. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know what the rules and regulations are for the parks for Kent County, but I'm a little worried that if we don't have some kind of rules and regulations in place, whether it be Mr. Corviella's campground or any others that may come to us, maybe we're going to be remiss in not trying to do something like that. So just my suggestion is we consider some rules and regulations to be put into place.
I'm willing to listen because here's my concern, right? And I mean that sincerely. I don't know what rules and regulations to put on a campground or a store or the tree farm. I know hours of operations. I can do that. I'm clear on that one. I know buffering. I don't know what to say when I say no to, I don't know. So that's what I need help on from some folks if you want to articulate that.
Well, at some point in time, there must have been some rhyme or reason why we established, or Kent County Levy Court had rules and regulations put into place for parks. And I know Mr. Sweeney, or Commissioner Sweeney, is in charge of that. So I'm concerned, what is really the difference between the campground, other than, yeah, you stay, but a Killen's Pond or any other parks that we have here in Kent County? I worry about kind of like an open season. Well, you can just kind of do what you want as long as you're quiet after 11 a.m., but you got to enforce that. But when it doesn't happen, what happens then?
Commissioner Masson, Mr. Pepper, do you mind?
Right.
Thanks, sir. So in my experience, when other campers take the campsite out of it, when a property owner gets too loud or boisterous, we have noise ordinances because it impacts other people, other properties. In a campground, if site number 30 is bothering site number 31, the enforcement's going to come from the owner of the campsite. And usually it's not going to extend beyond the borders of the property itself to the neighbors. And if it does, then our noise ordinances would come into play.
And I understand that. But my concern is, if the only regulation is okay, your hours of operation where people can kind of do what they want with their golf carts, et cetera, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., boy, that's a broad brush on what you can do and what you can't do. And so if we're sitting here as Levy Court Commissioners saying that's the only thing we're going to hold you accountable for, so, and he doesn't have any rules and regulations over and above that, does that mean that somebody who's not such a good camper can do what they want and nobody's going to say anything? Because, and me as a camper, which I'm not a good camper, if I go in and the only rule and regulation I have is beginning and end time, that says to me, gee whiz, you can kind of do what you want. You want to do volleyball, you want to play football out in the middle of the roads, have at it. I'm just concerned because I don't know Mr. Corviella, never been to his area, although I do know where it is. I'm just a little worried that, is this an open-ended thing where we can conceivably have problems, but the people who are the farmers that are around that area, they have no recourse, but they have to put up with whatever goes. I really like what Mr. Wilkins said about rules and regulations so that people understand what you can do and what you can't do. Because not everybody's a great camper, at least from what I've seen, which is why I'm not a good camper.
Right. So one of the questions I asked Mr. Coviello was what was his quiet times? His quiet times are 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So quiet times to me is that's you stop playing football out in the parking lot or in the driveway or or even kind of walking around, but it's human nature. I mean, people are going to get rowdy. It's a private campground, so probably doesn't have any alcohol prohibitions. It's up to the owner of the campsite to police the grounds within their policy, and if the infraction causes problems with the owners around it, that's when the county comes into play to enforce our laws that impact them, right, Ms. Kiefer?
Thought you had, was that a question for Ms. Kiefer?
No.
Okay. All right. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I was waiting for the answer. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, at this time we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Tanaka is on the way back. Okay, Mr. Tanaka, we're ready for a roll call vote. Motion is made by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Sweeney.
Mr. Angel?
I have a campground in my district that I have an issue with. Every year they apply for a permit. And when you talk about unintended consequences, you talk about noise, trespassing issues, concerns with the neighbors, fireworks, laser light shows, concerts and musics. And the time of being quiet, they don't know what the meaning of it. So I'm there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning when I get the calls from my constituents watching this. And we still can't do what we need to do. So my vote's going to be no.
Mr. Buxton?
Yeah, obviously, yes, based on my motion, I'm here because we have property rights that need to be protected within reason. So within reason, we need to place reasonable conditions on those properties and try and marry the two, allow it to exist within reason. I just think that has to occur here. So what we've done tonight, restricting any full-time, and I expect that. There shall be no full-time residency there. Placing those conditions, adding the buffer, the signage, the fencing, and others. It's the best option I have. So I'll stick with my motion to approve.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, based on staff and RPC recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
No, for the reasons Commissioner Angel stated, I'm just not comfortable with this and the impact that it's going to have on the farming community as well as / neighbors.
Mr. Sweeney?
My vote's yes, based on Commissioner Buxton's long diatribe and accommodations and conditions. We know from Mr. Conesi's comments that in the past 3 years, the number of RVers in the United States has grown by 1.3 million. And we are trying to promote tourism in the southern part of the county. This will hopefully help with those people who are attending D-Turf with additional places to stay that are in our county, and they don't have to drive to Rehoboth or Wilmington to attend events there. So if this place has been in existence for 6 years, and if the county hasn't sent out any engineer or inspectors yet on a noise complaint or other kind of nuisance, I don't expect it to happen anytime soon. So my vote's yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Okay. I have a lot of notes here. Please bear with me while I go over them. First off, Mr. Bucks, I do support the 1-year extension for the Briggs business on the property. But I have some concerns. One concern is that the neighbors didn't seem to have a problem with Mr. Yoder operating illegally for numerous years. However, now when we're putting restrictions on it, now we're against it. But you may think I'm going in a different direction than what I'm going. Sam Yoder, numerous years ago, didn't ask for permission to do this, and there's probably a reason for it. He probably didn't think his neighbors would support it, and or Levy Court would support it back then, being the location that it's in. My fears are that we're going to set a precedence for similar operations throughout the county, and I am extremely sensitive to protecting farmland. Looking at recent applications that we've had before us and reasons we turned them down is because we're concerned about protecting farmland, and I am extremely concerned with that. It's not consistent with the surrounding area. You just look at the picture, that beautiful picture up on the screen up there. It's not consistent. I mean, I can't help what Mr. Yoder did, but he did something that wasn't right for the area at the time. And and I think that this, at somewheres down the road, well, maybe not in the immediate future because of where we already said that we're not expanding the existing campground out into the areas in front. But I can't help but believe if this thing goes off and becomes as popular as I think it will, or would, and with it's already been stated about the existing sales of motorhomes and campers and that type of thing, especially past couple of years, that this thing's going to take off and going to need to grow, and we'll be seeing this application back in here again to review, to expand it out into that open space out in the front there. And the one comment that I heard tonight that is so true: 2 wrongs don't make a right. And so this was done illegally to begin with. I don't think that us approving this tonight would make what was done several years ago right. It should not have been done then, and I don't think it should be done now. I mean, look at the character of the roads around it. You got these 35 to 50-foot motorhomes that are going to be traveling down there. You're going to have fifth wheels coming in and out of there. All types of traffic such as that. And so I just don't think that it is be a good fit for a farming community, and especially at this time, and I'm doing everything I can to protect farmland. So, long story short, my vote is no.
Up the record first to say that I hope that I support farmland also, despite my vote. If anyone was guessing there, it is a political season. I need to make sure I get that out. And
Mr. Buxton, I'm not questioning your vote on that farmland. So don't think so.
Mr. President.
So just because of my vote, don't think that I'm not supporting you. So, so it'd be no, my vote.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 4 yeas and 3 nay.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the application CS 0518 has passed with restrictions. Okay. Next item on the agenda falls under Commissioner Angel, application CS 2107. Folks that were here for the previous petition, you're free to leave. However, you're free to stay for about another 2 hours if you want to.
Go ahead, Ms. Kiefer.
Thank you. Commissioners, application CS 2107 is a conditional use site plan for a landscaping and horticultural service operation. The site is 14 acres on the south side of North Little Creek Road. It is zoned AC, agricultural conservation. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony on the application at their November 4th hearing, and at their November 10th business meeting, voted unanimously to recommend conditional approval with the inclusion of a waiver from the requirement to install frontage sidewalk. So again, it comes with a recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Kiefer? Good, Mr. President.
Okay, seeing no questions for Ms. Kiefer. At this time, we'll open the public hearing on this application CS 21-07 and ask anyone that is in the audience that would like to come forward and present testimony as to why this should be approved. Please come forward.
William Darby, owner of ProCut Tree Service.
Address, sir.
714 Quicker Hill Road, Magnolia, Delaware.
Mr. Darby, do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm William with ProCut Tree, and we're looking to get this project and keep doing business. And but you guys have some commissioners have any questions?
Any questions for the applicant? Any questions? So, just one. So, it's my understanding.
Jump up here too soon?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Are you going to coexist with the church on that property? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is, Commissioner.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I just want, you don't feel left out, do you?
I need a little attention, you know.
I could throw a tantrum if you need me to.
Dana Dunphy, 550 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware.
Do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. With the conditional use, we are asking for the conditional use of Williams' business, and with that use and moving forward with the county, we would be doing a minor lot line adjustment to separate Williams' property away from the church's property.
Thank you. That explains a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Mr. Angel.
Yes. I've been out there several times to look at the property too, and this is a perfect spot for this type of business, and what the church is willing to move the road in conjunction with that, it's perfect for what he's applying for.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience that is in favor of this application, please come forward.
Reverend Brian Miller, 1788 North Little Creek Road.
Sir, do you swear or affirm tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm the pastor of the church that's neighboring William. I just wanted to, on behalf of the congregation, thank you for considering this and voice our church's desire this move forward and ask for your approval on behalf of the church. And I'll field any questions you guys have for us as well.
Any questions for Reverend? Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor of this application, CS 2107, please come forward. Anyone else in favor, please come forward.
We have anyone on WebEx who wishes to address Levy Court in favor of this application? Please press *3 on your mobile device or the raise hand icon on your computer.
I see no hands on WebEx at this time.
Okay. Anyone in the audience that is opposed to application CS 21-07, please come forward. Anyone opposed?
Likewise, anyone on WebEx who wishes to address Levy Court in opposition to this application, *3 on your mobile phone, raise hand icon on your computer.
No hands raised on WebEx in opposition.
Okay. Seeing no one in opposition, at this time I'll close the public hearing on CS 2107 and turn it back over to Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve application CS 21-07, Pro Cut Tree Services, with the recommended conditional approval of RPC and my previous statement.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel to approve, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, as per my statement.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, per comments made.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, based on staff and RPC recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, reason stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated, plus testimony offered here tonight.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals application CS 2107 has been approved by Levy Court. Thank you, folks. Next application, application CS-21-08. Commissioner Howell, in your district, sir.
Yes, Ms. Kiefer, what can you
Here.
tell us?
Application CS 2108 is a conditional use site plan for a 3.2 acre solar array. The entire site is 25 acres on the northeast side of the intersection of Slaughter Station Road and Hourglass Road. It's zoned AR, agricultural residential. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony at their November 4th hearing. At their November 10th business meeting, they voted unanimously to recommend approval and to grant the waiver from the frontage sidewalk again. There was also a condition added to reconfigure some of the planted buffer to offer better screening to some surrounding houses. But again, it comes with a recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Kiefer? Seeing none, thank you. At this time, we'll ask anyone who may be in the audience that is here in favor of application CS 2108 to please come forward and offer testimony. Anyone in favor?
If we have anyone on WebEx who wishes to address this matter before Levy Court in favor, *3 on your mobile phone, raise hand icon on your computer, please.
Again, if there's anyone online wishing to speak in favor of this application, please press *3 or your raise hand icon. I see no hands raised on WebEx at this time.
Okay. Anyone in the audience that would want to come forward and offer testimony as to why CS 2108 should not be approved, please come forward. Anyone who thinks CS 2108 should not be approved, please come forward.
We have anyone on WebEx who wishes to address Levy Court in opposition to this matter? *3 on your mobile phone or the raise hand icon. Did I get it right, Mark? I thought I said it the first time.
I see no hands raised on WebEx at this time.
Any questions before I close the public hearing? Any questions? If not, at this time we'll close the public hearing on application CS-21-08 and turn it over to Commissioner Howell for a motion.
Well, I've been trying to come up with a fancy motion here to follow the example of our distinguished colleagues, Mr. Buxton. and I would like to make a motion with punctilious exactitude. However, I'll remain the simpleton I've always been. I move to approve application CS 2108 Sunrise Land, Delaware LLC. Proposed use agricultural residential for solar farm. The area and location is 25 plus or minus acres on the northeast side of the intersection of Slaughter Station Road and Hourglass Road, south of the town of Hartley.
Second motion.
Motion by Commissioner Howe, second by Commissioner Angel to approve CS-2108. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please, on that application?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, based on the RPC unanimous conditional approval and items A through D on the face page of the Regional Planning Commission. Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, based on reasons stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, based on staff and RPC recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, because I just want to.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated, plus I grew up in that area. I'm familiar with that land in that area. And not knowing what the productivity number is on that area, I'm sure it's this is probably the best use for that piece of land, and it is taking up a relatively small area, so I vote yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals application CS-21-08 has been approved. Next item falls under Mr. Howe as well. It's ordinance LC 21-18. Commissioner Howe.
Thank you. Ordinance LC 21-18 is an ordinance to amend the zoning map. The site in question is just over 1.5 acres on the west side of the intersection of Route 13 and Delaware Avenue, north of Harrington. It's currently zoned AR, agricultural residential. The proposal is to rezone to BG, general business. It is indeed inside the growth zone. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony at their November 4th hearing, and at their November 10th business meeting voted unanimously to recommend approval, citing that the proposal indeed comports with the comprehensive plan, and it's in keeping with the surrounding area. So again, this comes with a recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any question you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Kiefer, any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing none, at this time, we will open the public hearing on ordinance LC 21-18 and ask anyone that is here tonight in favor of this to please come forward. Anyone in favor, please come forward.
If there's anyone joining us on WebEx that would like to speak in favor of this application, please press *3 on your phone or the raise hand icon on your mobile device. See no hands raised in favor on WebEx at this time.
Okay, anyone here in opposition to ordinance LC 21-18? Anyone in opposition to please come forward.
If there's anyone on WebEx wishing to speak in opposition, please press the raise hand icon or *3 on your phone. We have no takers, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any questions before I close the public hearing? Seeing none, at this time I'll close the public hearing and I'll turn ordinance LC 21-18 over to Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we approve ordinance LC 21-18, an ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan map designation and the official zoning map of Kent County, Delaware, pursuant to the provisions of Kent County Code, Volume 2, Chapter 205 Zoning, Article 3, Section 205-8, and Section 205-9, and Article 28, effective December 1, 2000, as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Howe, second by Commissioner Masson. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please, on ordinance LC 21-18?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reasons stated by Ms. Kiefer, RPC, unanimous approval, and the items ABC under the paragraph.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, reasons stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, I'm very glad to see something's happening at this property. I did a lot of work over a decade ago, and I got no cooperation from the owners. He had a realty company. I'm very curious how you came up with the information on how to do what you're going to do. But I'm very glad. It's an excellent location. I'm glad to see something's happening with it. I vote yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for reasons stated, and echoing Commissioner Howe, this property's been languishing for quite some time, and it is pretty much the gateway to the city of Harrington, so I'm extremely glad to see that it's going to be something productive used for. So thank you, and yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 21-18 has been approved. Thank you very much. Okay, amendment to Kent County Code Chapter 68, reference holidays. Commissioner Angel, administration.
Thank you. Mr. Coelho, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. LC 21-20 was reviewed with the Commissioners back in October in a proposed format. You made some adjustments to that rough draft, and those were transferred into the proposed ordinance, which was advertised. Unfortunately, the drafter, that'd be me, failed to include one of those holidays that move through the week and could fall on the weekend. So I would request that before if you're inclined to adopt the ordinance, that you would amend it to include that in paragraph D, which addresses those holidays that might fall on a Saturday and Sunday when they're an official date, like July 4th, or in this case, Veterans Day, November the 11th. Commissioner Angel, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Coelho? Seeing none?
Okay, seeing no questions, this is a public hearing, ordinance LC 21-20. Ask anyone that's in favor of this ordinance to please come forward. Anyone in favor?
If there's anyone online that would like to speak in favor of this application, please press *3 on your phone or the raise hand icon. No hands raised on WebEx at this time.
Thank you. Seeing no one here in favor, anyone opposed? Anyone opposed to ordinance LC 21-20?
For those joining us on WebEx, if you'd like to speak in opposition to this item, please press *3 or the raise hand icon. No hands wishing to speak in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Unless there's any questions from the commissioners, at this time I will close the public hearing and turn it over to Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to amend ordinance LC 21-20 to add November 11th, Veterans Day, to Section 1, Paragraph D, in sequence with the other listed holidays.
Second.
Any questions on the motion by Commissioner Angel and second by Commissioner Maston? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals that ordinance LC 21-20 has been approved. And at this time, we'll close public hearings. It's a two-part motion, okay. All right, go ahead for your second motion.
Okay, now that we've made the amendment, we got to vote on it. I move to approve ordinance LC 21-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 68 of the Kent County Code relating to holidays as amended.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions? Not roll call, please, on the motion.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 21-20 has been approved, and now we will close the public hearings. There is no old business, new business. Commissioner Angel.
Thank you. Mr. Cuela.
Thank you, Commissioner Angels, and thank you for approving Juneteenth as a county holiday. So every few years, like most contract service agreements, we issue an RFP, and we recently did that for actuarial services. We've had the current actuary for 2 contract terms, 6 years. And we did receive a decent number of responses, and those were taken to the Pension Review Committee for consideration following an interview of 3 of them, including the current actuary. I have listed for you what the quoted prices were from each one of the actuarial services firms for the services that we use. The most expensive is typically the annual pension valuation. And the Pension Review Committee has, they did meet on November 18th, and they have recommended the selection of Milliman as the new actuary for our pension and OPEB programs. Back to you, Commissioner Angel, for any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Cuellar? Seeing none, I move to select Millman for a 3-year term at the fees proposed, including quoted GASB related and optional services as needed, and authorize the President to execute the actuarial services agreement when finalized by the county attorney.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Hall. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. The actuary services agreement has been approved. Item number 2, Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm recommending Levy Court appoint Tammy Ordway for the Pension Review Committee. She's filling the spot for the resignation of Ron Smith.
Thank you. That's the motion. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Sweeney. Any questions? If not, can I roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals Tammy J. Ordway is now a member of the Kent County Pension Review Committee. Item 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you remember, Representative Lyndon Urick informed Levy Court that he was giving funds, that it's a pass-through in order to help this community reinvestment funds that he received from the state of Delaware in the amount of $234,000. So it's a pass-through for us to help him, help his community. Any questions? I move to authorize the disbursement of community redevelopment reinvestment funds received from the state of Delaware in the amount of $234,000 as designated by State Representative Lyndon Urick for specified fire companies in the following amounts: $100,000 to Camden, Wyoming Fire Company, $100,000 to Magnolia Volunteer Fire Company, and $34,000 to Felton Community Fire Company, with said monies to be expended solely for and limited to the items and equipment purchases approved by the state of Delaware as listed in correspondence sent to the Delaware Comptroller General on November 4th, 2021. And I further move that each of the referenced fire companies provide the County Director of Finance with a written project expenditure completion report upon completion of the respective purchases and projects.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Sweeney. Any questions? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Commissioner Buxton, got an action item.
Before we move on, Brownie, did you want to give any good job? Thank you. He stayed here all night. He deserves to at least.
So I'm Jeff Brown, Fire Chief of Camden, Wyoming Fire Company. I'm also the first Vice President of Kent County Volunteer Fire Chiefs Association. Just want to extend my appreciation to Representative Lyndon Urick. He continuously supports us year-end, every year. Same with all of you seated before me. Without your continued support, we would not be able to exist. So it is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Jeff. Real glad that you stuck around, and as always, you're always welcome here.
Already called on me, so I can make a motion. No, I'm good. I forgot I was waiting for Mr. Pepper to introduce me again. That
Mr. Buxton,
wouldn't have made sense.
You're up.
All right, the Magnolia Transportation Improvement District. I asked Ms. Kiefer she asked if she could step away. I'll take it from here, which is rather simple. This is a good deal. It's a big deal. Appreciate the effort that has occurred and the effort that's going to occur, that's going to address some of the transportation needs in the Magnolia area. And with that said, I'll make a motion right now. I move that the Levy Court authorize the county administrator to sign an agreement regarding the Magnolia Transportation Improvement District between Delaware Department of Transportation, Kent County, and the town of Magnolia.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Sweeney to approve action item. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, Mr. Knockham, we have roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. The motion has been approved. Commissioner Masson, you have an introduction.
Yes, I'd like to introduce ordinance LC 21-23, an ordinance to amend Kent County Code Volume 2, General Legislation, Chapter 191, Taxation, to include a new Article 9, Real Property Tax Credit for Disabled Veterans, 191 to 69 through 191 to 73, to establish a real property value-based tax credit for totally disabled veterans who are residents of Kent County and who meet eligibility criteria under the State of Delaware Disabled Veterans School Tax Credit pursuant to 14 Del Code 1917 for public hearing on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Before we go, Mr. Pettit-Damage, I just read this under that first whereas, the second line, it says, who are totally disabled veterans with a Sussex County value-based real property tax. Yeah, the first whereas, second line, it says disabled veterans with a Sussex County value-based real property tax.
Yeah, I would say that's a typo.
I was going to say.
That will get corrected.
Okay. Are we okay with the introduction, even though that's a mistake?
Yes, with the correction to be made, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, introduction has been made. Correction will be made. Executive session tonight. Okay. Commissioner Angel, item number 2.
Move to go into executive session immediately following the committee meetings of December 7, 2021 for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for publicly funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation, and personnel matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004, B2, 4, and 9.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. And unless there's any questions on the motion, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed. Any informational items? Commissioner Angel.
Yes. Next week I'll be leaving to go to Atlanta for our conference, NACO conference. And I just want to bring up that when I get back, I think we need to go back and look at our travel policy and get it updated and things in line better than what it is. So if we can look at that, I think we're having leadership next Wednesday, right? I won't be here. Just to put that on the list, please.
Any other? Yes.
Yesterday morning, Commissioner Pepper, Commissioner Angel, myself, and County Administrator attended the State of the Base, and it was a very, very unique view from the commander, from Commander Huseman. Instead of giving us graph after graph after graph of how much they're spending on each project, he delivered his State of the Base from the eyes of different people that are stationed at the base. It was a fantastic event. Thought I learned more yesterday than I have in most years that I've been.
It was a great presentation. It was. Mr. Angel?
And I'd like to piggyback off of that too, is the commander did this all without anything in front of him. It was probably the best I've ever seen anybody speak and then take the airmen and the people that were doing the jobs. We had 2 of them sitting at our table that he called out on and one sitting behind us. So he's very in tune with his air people and very, as Ms. Commissioner Sweeney said, that was probably the best. And it was fantastic. That's all I can say.
Was. Mr. Pettit-Damage?
I just wanted to acknowledge Chief Brown is here, correct? I had to step out when you took care of the community reinvestment money. But before you leave tonight, if you would like to take care of business here, we can turn the check over to you tonight. All right, thank you for being here tonight. Sorry I had to step out.
Any other questions, Sweeney?
Wow, Jeff, you didn't say anything about a check when you stepped up to the podium and talked to us, so.
Restraint. Any other commissioner information items? On December 3rd, that's the first annual Camden Christmas Parade. 4th? Yeah, I thought you meant the 4th parade. No, yes, you're right. On December 3rd, Friday, is the caroling in front of Dover City Hall, and on the 4th is the first annual Camden Christmas Parade. Our Parks and Recreation Department's going to walk through the parade with some kind of equipment or float or whatever, and I know I and Commissioner Sweeney are going to walk through the parade. Anyone else would like to, you're more than welcome. I encourage it. And Kelly is having a banner made to identify us as not just 3, 4, 7 people walking through the parade. So please, if you have the opportunity, please join us for the parade in Camden. I'm sure that everybody will appreciate that.
The last 2 people to sign up have to carry the banner.
Anybody else?
What if
have
no
any
one else
information?
signs up?
Are you going to be there?
The 2 of you carried a banner.
Are you going to be there? I'll bring my grandsons. You can bring your grandkids. They can.
There you go. That's an idea. That's an idea. I probably convince them to do that. Any other information items? Any public comments? Thank you, Jeff. Commissioner comments.
I just want to say have fun next week because I'll be driving on the way back from Atlanta, so I'll be thinking of you walking.
Commissioner comments, Commissioner Sweeney.
Just for the entire staff and all you fellow commissioners, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, you too. And need a motion to adjourn unless there's any other commissioner comments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. And our county administrator will be off tomorrow and Monday. So, Mike, enjoy the time off. Are you going away or are you staying home? Good deal.